Now this is pretty crazy. Test Drive Unlimited is about to come out on full release, but it's the crew Motorfest who have just delivered what could be the best update in like open world simcade racing game history. I'm going to let you know all about what's going on in this video. We're going to compare against Test Drive Unlimited. If you're thinking about which game to play, we're going to cover the graphics, we're going to cover new cars, we're going to cover new islands, we're going to cover the showrooms. There's some free stuff for you as well in this video. In fact, there's one feature that I've been asking about for such a long time. But let's start with graphics here. So we've got the Crew Motorfest on the right, Test Drive Unlimited on the left. These are both running on my PC. This is my footage actually as I'm playing the game. And you can see that I think the Crew Motorfest still has slightly better graphics than Test Drive Unlimited. There's something not right with the anti-aliasing in Test Drive Unlimited, and I think the lighting is better in Crew Motorfest as well. And remember, this is a game that's now a year old, but getting a lot of support. You may have noticed as well. In fact, I'm going to talk about it in a second. Look at the handling though. I much prefer the handling, I'm going to be honest, in Test Drive Unlimited. The Crew Motorfest, the suspension, remember you've got that nitrous as well, but this is a difference. Look here, because you actually get that proper wheel rotation in the Crew Motorfest, and they need to bring that to Test Drive Unlimited. It's very sort of immersion breaking when you don't have that proper wheel rotation that you get in the Crew. Now this is a big surprise. I was not expecting this, and this is something that I really want to come back to Test Drive Unlimited, because if you remember the original Test Drive Unlimited, there were police cars. It was a big part of the game. Later on in the series, you could sort of like pay off bribes and stuff like that. And I really feel like open world simcade racing games need to have some kind of police element. Otherwise, for me, it just feels like a massive soul is missing. And the Crew Motorfest are adding in the upcoming year 2 stuff. There's loads of stuff coming, but part of it is going to be this police chasing that not only is going to have a story-based aspect, but it's also going to be there in the free roam as well. So you're going to be able to not just race people, but also try and arrest them and stuff like that. I'm all over this. This is a really big thing for me. I think it's missing from Test Drive Unlimited. I don't really like the festival racing like stories in Crew Motorfest and Forza Horizon, obviously. I like this grittier feel that you had in the Crew one. I really like the feel in the Crew one. And by the way, we're going to talk about earlier Crew games, including something massive that if you're probably something that you're very unhappy with Test Drive Unlimited about. But here again, look at this footage. Takedowns, it reminds you of Burnout, doesn't it? It looks a bit like Burnout. Need for Speed, Most Wanted as well. They know what they're doing. The Crew as well has these custom gauges, which is awesome. Now, talking about new islands, both Test Drive Unlimited is going to have a new area in Ibiza, and the Crew Motorfest is adding Maui. I don't know how different Maui is going to be to Ibiza. I'm going to put both on screen here. Sorry, I didn't phrase that well at all. I don't know how different Maui is going to be to the existing area in Test Drive, but Ibiza is probably going to be very different from Hong Kong. So you're going to have more variety in Test Drive Unlimited. The thing is though, do you really care about that if the game is going to be not connecting to servers and you're not going to be having as much fun? It might not matter whether it's Ibiza or Maui, but if you're worried about connecting to servers, there is something huge that the Crew Motorfest, not just the Crew Motorfest, that Ubisoft are doing, because they got a massive slating for taking the Crew 1 offline. I was gutted by that because, like I've said before, I really love the Crew 1. Probably for me, Test Drive Unlimited 1 and the Crew 1, two of my favourite open world races, and really interesting now that Test Drive Unlimited is in Hong Kong and the Crew Motorfest is in Hawaii, which is where Test Drive Unlimited started. But very, very interesting. Now, I do want to talk about cars and the buying experience. I'm going to go on to actually the showrooms as well later, because I feel like the social element is so important to these games. It's not one that I particularly enjoyed before. But when it comes to cars, there are just so many more cars in the Crew Motorfest. I mean, there's over, I think, 600 cars now, and I think there's only about 100 in Test Drive Unlimited. Really fingers crossed that Test Drive Unlimited can add more cars, because I was going around the showrooms. I'm in a period where I'm like level 17 or something, and I want to upgrade my car, but I can't really upgrade until level 30. The Crew Motorfest is the other end of the spectrum. It just absolutely throws cars at you. Forza Motorsport is the same. I just wish there was a way of playing these games like the Crew Motorfest where you really had to earn the cars and they weren't just thrown at you, because I mean that would be such a long and in-depth game to play. But I'm showing you here, like, these are the cars available. I just feel like people have forgotten about this. Is not paid by the Crew, by the way, or Test Drive Unlimited. I just feel like people have forgotten about the Crew Motorfest. It's a game that I really enjoyed playing at launch, but then I just sort of fell out of love with it. They have kept updating it, and there is a lot of stuff in Season 2. There's also, here's a little bonus, you can get a free Lamborghini Urus if you just log into the game. So I logged into the game, and I did actually get a Lamborghini Urus. I think it's quite a weird car to give away. Like, for a gift after a year, I would have given away something nicer. But still, it's a free Urus, but in a game where cars are quite easy to come by, it's maybe not the most exciting car, but it's still a free car. So leave a cherry emoji in the comments if you're going to go into the Crew Motorfest and pick up your free Lamborghini Urus. But this is the big news. This is absolutely huge. The Crew Motorfest is going to be made, it's going to have an offline mode, and I think even more importantly, the Crew 2, because remember the Crew 2 still has that massive USA map. So this is absolutely massive. I mean, so much of the backlash about Test Drive Unlimited has been about the online only mode. We saw the servers going down, you couldn't enter the game, then you couldn't do races, you couldn't progress. By the way, I remember launch day of the Crew Motorfest, and I remember the same thing happened. You know, people's memories are short, but I remember trying to get into the Crew Motorfest and it wasn't working, and there were issues there. I couldn't get through the start screen. There's times I've tried to play Forza Horizon, I haven't been able to get on. That's just the nature of online only games. But the fact they're going to do an offline mode, for me, is genuinely a really, really, really big deal, because I now know that that USA map in the Crew 2, I can play that as long as I live, basically. And I can really get invested in buying the cars and learning the roads. It doesn't have that temporary feeling anymore. So this is a real shot across the bows of Test Drive Unlimited. I feel like the Crew Motorfest, the guys at Ubisoft, they may have made this announcement specifically now because of Test Drive Unlimited. And these games are obviously going head to head. It's year 2 of the Crew Motorfest versus year 1 of Test Drive Unlimited. Now I'm going to show you now an area that I prefer in the Crew, and then I'm going to show you some stuff that I prefer in Test Drive Unlimited, because again, I'm just trying to let you know what these games are like if you're thinking about buying them, because they're a lot of money these days. So these are sort of like the inverted commas showroom areas in the game. It's not exactly that, because it's strictly a showroom in Test Drive on the left. On the right hand side, I think it's like the showcase, whatever they call it. But it's a completely different vibe. Like Ubisoft, they make a lot of games, you know, like Assassin's Creed and Far Cry. And for some reason, it just feels a lot sleeker to be in third person. I also like the fact that you can actually see sort of people's liveries and you can vote for them. And there was something really cool I'm going to show you here with another content creator, because if you look at that Nissan Skyline in the back, and by the way, you can also buy the car straight off. This is Black Panther's Skyline. That's a car that he has in real life. He hasn't quite made it to have a Peugeot RCZ, but he's got that car, and you can see the livery and everything, and you can apply it, you can vote for it. You see I voted for it. And it starts to make Test Drive Unlimited in comparison feel quite sterile. I've never really interacted with people in that Crew Motorfest area, but the interactions with the cars actually feel a little bit more personal. There's a bit more personality there. So I just thought I'd let you know that. However, when it comes to the actual racing, the Crew Motorfest is, for me, very different to Test Drive Unlimited, because you have this nitrous element. So it becomes more like an arcade racer with when you have the nitrous. Not all cars have nitrous. This is like some fancy F1 cars, but it's more of a arcade experience in the way it's presented, with the barriers, hitting the barriers. There's less slowdown when you hit objects. You're flying in the car quite a lot. You could literally fly in the game as well. And it has that kind of arcade presentation, even though there's actually very deep tuning in the Crew Motorfest. Whereas Test Drive Unlimited feels a lot more grounded. Like when you hit stuff, you really slow down. You can see going through those barriers there, those cars have slowed down going through it. I've actually been able to go through the trail of destruction they've left. There's no nitrous as well. The cars feel weightier. We looked at the handling earlier. It feels like there's suspension actually doing stuff here. And there's more purpose with the cars. The map as well is generally quite tight and twisty, which I do enjoy. The Crew Motorfest is about much more sort of wider, open roads. It's a bit different style. I do like the Crew Motorfest, but I would love the Crew Motorfest to have like a more realistic mode. I think they could still do it with the physics they have, and maybe in like a more urban map as well. I'd love them to take this to the US map. Wow, this has been such an in-depth video. Please subscribe if you made it this far. I really appreciate you. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you next time.